Hi. Um, I haven't been on Facebook in a while, like a live stream, because I've been on YouTube and we've moved all of our videos to YouTube. So I just wanted to check in with people here and kind of have a conversation really quickly on my feelings about what happened and what's currently happening and where do we go from here. Hi, Nikki. How are you? Thank you for all the work you did, by the way. Thank you. Thank you for everything you did. I know you were part of the campaign, so thank you very much. So let's look at this in a logical way because I know we're all like emotional about this. So I've been trying to look at it in a very logical way. And basically, I didn't expect Bernie Sanders to drop out that quickly. But I did feel like this campaign was not a bottom-up campaign the way it was run. And I will, if you watch my YouTube, if you listen to what I'm posting or read what I'm posting, I'm going to start going into more detail as to what I felt went wrong. But I just want to first and foremost thank all the people who pretty much uprooted their whole lives and dedicated their time to believe in this movement, to actually have some sort of faith in the system again. Faith that I think a lot of people lost because a lot of people, no longer had faith. And then Bernie Sanders came along. And I'm going to thank all those people because I know so many of them who literally were like some of the most hardworking people. And I'm talking about the field organizers. I'm talking about those people at the very, very low rung of the campaign who did a lot of tremendous work, and all the volunteers who did this for free. I got to thank all those people. But I didn't expect him to drop off this soon. And to be frank, and I know a lot of you are feeling it, I feel that was the wrong move. I feel like he should have fought harder. I feel like he didn't take the gloves off. I feel like he surrounded himself with some of the wrong people at the top, people who shouldn't have been advising him. He should have listened more to his base. He should have listened to his press team, who is now being extremely honest about how they felt and who throughout this whole campaign were extremely on point, whether it was Brianna Joy Gray, David Serrata, and Nina Turner as somebody that was up there and saying all the right things. Levy Sanders is also up there. Sanders should have had them around more, listened to them more. And I will forever be thankful for Bernie because he's the reason I'm here. He's the reason I do what I do. He's really inspired me and a lot of you in so many ways. And that, the 30, 40 years of hard work will never be taken away. But Bernie is not necessarily going to lead us into this revolution that a lot of people had in mind, right? He's more of a reformist, and we have to accept that. And I think we can accept that. And in a way, yesterday, I did a video with Pasta where I broke up with him in that sense. Like, I'm not going to follow him into this venture to endorse or support Joe Biden in any way, shape, or form. And I think dropping out without going to a convention, without having the leverage was a mistake. I think a lot of people literally gave up their lives and sacrificed so much. And this isn't enough. What's going on is not enough. What's happening in our country is literally proving that we need a Bernie Sanders. I mean, it literally proves that we need Medicare for all. We obviously need rent control. We need, a rent moratorium. We should have had all these things in place. Student debt forgiveness, all of these things, if we would have had them in place, would have entirely shifted things into a more positive outcome. But it's the fact that now the progressive movement finds itself at a loss as to what to do next. And I see that, and I feel that, and I feel a lot of people are giving up. And I just want to say, Bernie Sanders' whole thing, and in my belief, a lot of people just aren't really seeing it, is that this was never about one guy. It was never about one person automatically fixing things. Just like it's not about Donald Trump being the only problem we have. We remove Trump, we will still have the system that enabled his election. Because for years before Donald Trump's election, we had what? We had Ronald Reagan. We had those politics, that type of neoliberalism that propelled the next decades that would lead to Donald Trump. And that includes the Clinton administration. That includes the Bush family. It includes Barack Obama, who was manipulating things from behind the scenes. And we all know this. Nobody's surprised at what he did. But this is what happened. This is how this all came about. And I want us to understand that the reason so many of us aren't going to follow Bernie Sanders into this endorsement of Joe Biden isn't because we're sore losers, isn't because we're children, isn't because we don't get it and we're privileged. I'm an immigrant. I'm not in any way, shape, or form privileged. I'm also working class. I'm not in any way, shape, or form privileged. So I hate hearing people say it's so privileged of you to not vote for Joe Biden, because it is usually privileged people that have the audacity to say that. And I even someone like Chomsky was never poor. Chomsky is an intellectual, but if he had lived a day in his life like the working class, I think his perspective would have been ardently different. And that's why it's so enraging to me. And I'm very tame right now, but it's enraging to me that people have the audacity to say this to a generation like mine that has seen 2 depressions in our lifetime, that has seen war and just awful politics, that has seen the greatest transfer of wealth from the working class into the top 1%. How dare anybody call us privileged and spoiled when simply like having enough money to go to school is like, oh my God, it would be amazing, or not being in debt for years would be amazing. Simply being able to afford rent would be amazing. And these people have this audacity to frame it in such a way that makes you feel like you are the problem, like you're just not seeing it. It's called gaslighting, and it's a national gaslighting movement is what's happening. And unfortunately, Bernie Sanders is a part of that right now. And as much as I love him, like a relative I disagree with, and I have many, I am not going to agree with him on this. I think what we should do as a movement is ardently oppose Joe Biden. And no, that doesn't mean you are electing Trump, because we have been put this idea that we only have 2 choices, that we only have to choose between the lesser of evils. And that in itself is it's a form of mental slavery, because they're telling you have no other choice. And what they did was this election is what's propelled me to stand so hard against Joe Biden's election, because I traveled, if you guys know, you saw me, I went to Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada. We covered all the elections, and what I saw is absolutely disgusting. It is not democracy. It hasn't been for a very long time. What they did with these elections is nothing less than election fraud. Whether it was done through voter suppression with long lines, not enough machines, not enough working machines, provisional ballots, whether it was done through that, whether it was done through the machines, missing USBs in Texas, the closing of polling stations, the fact that we literally criminally drove people to vote under conditions of a pandemic. And not enough people are saying stuff about that. And Bernie Sanders should have led that. He should have led the conversation on election integrity, and he didn't. He failed to do that. And to me, that is something that is not, if we don't have fair elections in this country, how do we expect to elect anybody we like? It's just going to happen every now and then as a result of a miracle. And then what I've seen happen is even our congressional leaders are either stuck or they're trying to maintain their positions, so they have to capitulate to the establishment. Through the Democratic Party, there is no road. And until we go outside the electorate and build movements that were once there, during the Vietnam War, we saw a massive anti-war movement against that war, and we need that again. And if this pandemic isn't the right moment, I don't know what is. Right now, we have people in many, many, many states who can't pay their rent, who are so close to losing everything they have. They're going to lose their homes. They don't have jobs. They're feeling depressed. They don't know what to do. And they're starting to rise up. They're starting to rise up in a movement of rent strike. Prisoners are starting to rise up in a movement for prisoners' rights. Grocery store workers, the labor workers, the people who are essential workers, but they're discarded and treated like they're just nothing. Those people were not all necessarily political, but now they are, because necessity has propelled them to be political. And it's not even about politics. It's our lives here. We're just simply demanding justice, simply demanding what this Constitution, what this Declaration has told everybody that they can have: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those platitudes are constantly regurgitated by a lot of our politicians, but when it comes to the actions, they all fall in line. This bailout was a bailout for corporations and banks and Wall Street. Again, $1,200 as a one-time payment is an insult. And a lot of that payment can be garnished by the banks. It can be garnished by any outstanding debtor you have. And it's really an insult, you guys, and we shouldn't just accept it. And pretty much every politician, even the progressive ones, gave into that. And that's not okay, because if we don't demand something, if we don't stand up for something, they're going to continue doing this. We didn't stand up in 2016 when the same thing happened with our elections, and guess what? They were able to do it again. The DNC was able to control this again. If you think for 1 second that this election was fair, you are entirely wrong. I mean, the way this election went is anything but fair. To send people out there when people are dying, to send them out to vote, to really not have enough polling locations in California, in Los Angeles, to really do an experiment with these new machines that ended up not working and didn't even have the proper protocol to be used, is that's not democracy. We go about and we say we're spreading democracy. We go to Venezuela and we invade them, and we start these movements and coups in other countries, saying that we know better, that their elections are a sham. And guess what? Our elections are less honest and transparent than theirs are. And that is why I am not going to continue to vote for a system that perpetuates and okays corruption. It doesn't matter how bad you think Donald Trump is. Tell me policies of Joe Biden's that are actually better. Because the way I'm looking at it, Joe Biden wants to cut Social Security. Joe Biden said he would veto Medicare for all. Joe Biden has terrible foreign policy, wants to go to war with China, wants to go to war with Iran. Joe Biden wants to go to war with Russia. If you think that none of that matters, all of that money that we're spending in our military goes nowhere to us. It goes to the elites. And, they love to talk about how are you going to pay for it. They just gave the largest bailout in forever. I mean, it was worse. It was worse than TARP. And they gave the largest bailout, and nobody freaking goddamn asked. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for those people? They never once asked. And that destroys the whole theory that there's no money for you. There's money if there's money to be made. And that's just how it is. That's the bottom line. And so, no, I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, the guy who stood by Barack Obama as Barack Obama was deporting millions of immigrants. You want to come talk to me, an immigrant, about immigration? You go ahead. It's always the most privileged people that want to talk about immigration. Oh, you don't care about the kids in cages? When did you start caring about kids in cages? Just because it was Trump? What about when Obama was doing it? And he, of course, created more immigrants under Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who went into Honduras and caused a coup and ousted their democratically elected leader, Manuel Zelaya, pushed him aside, installed their own puppet, and that's why Honduras had the civil unrest that led lots of those people, thousands of those people, to come into this country. I went to Tijuana. I saw the caravans. I know this is true. You can't lie. You can't say that that's not true. And you want me to vote for the guy that wrote the crime bill? You want me to vote for the guy that helped deregulate Wall Street under Barack Obama? You want me to trust Barack Obama's VP? You want me to vote for the same neoliberal policies that angered so many people in the Midwest, in Michigan, and force them to think that this guy who's an anti-establishment, that's how he ran, populist from the right, said, hey, guess what? You guys, the Democratic Party didn't help you. He didn't lie about that. All his criticism about Democrats are true. The problem is he adds his own version of the truth. And then, of course, those people came in and they were like, hey, at least this guy isn't a Clinton. At least he isn't at least he's anti-establishment. At least he's going to do something for people of America. The farmers, the people who worked in factories who lost their jobs. Hillary Clinton didn't even campaign in those states, and neither did Joe Biden. That's the worst part. You're going to expect me to believe that Joe Biden won Michigan? Are you kidding me? Joe Biden, he didn't even campaign in any of those states. He didn't even talk about what happened to these people. And so when you have a very vulnerable working class population that, especially in the Midwest and the South, that feel betrayed by the Democratic Party, guess where they're going to go? They're going to go to the right. And that's what the Democratic Party is doing. They're pushing people to the right. They're creating the mechanisms for fascism, whether it comes from the center, because I'm not going to call them left, or the right. It's still a form of fascism. And that's what we're very, very much in danger of having. Because if we have someone like Donald Trump give people Medicare for all, if we have someone like Donald Trump look into what the working class needs and give them solutions, guess what people are going to do? They're going to vote for more Trumps. But if you elect a neoliberal tomorrow, let's say Joe Biden were to win, which he won't, but let's say he were to win somehow, don't you see that it's far worse to have 12 more years of a neoliberal, right? Because think about it. The reason we weren't at brunch in 2016, that many of us woke up and are now sitting here having this dialogue, is because Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump. And that is the one good thing I would ever give to Donald Trump. It's like his election caused people to wake up and see, wow, this is bad, because yes, he's bad, but people hated Hillary more. And you have to understand why. It's not because she's a woman. It was because she was a warmonger, one of the worst candidates in history, now to be topped off by Joe Biden. And that's why she lost, because of decades of her own type of policies went against Trump, and people thought, I want to try something new. And if we repeat that story, guess what's going to happen next time? We're going to get someone far worse than Donald Trump. We could get a real, horrible, very intelligent, a guy that's entirely controlled by the military-industrial complex, because as much as I dislike Trump, he sometimes doesn't do what they want. And that's what gets some people to vote for him. And if you're going to counteract that, and this is where Bernie failed, instead of being soft on the Democratic establishment, I don't know if you guys noticed, but in 2016, Bernie was a lot more aggressive towards the Democratic establishment. He 100% went against them. This is why he won the Midwest, and he won a lot of the Republicans over, because he was just speaking to them frankly. He didn't have to rely on identity politics. He simply said, look, all poor people are suffering because it's us against the 1%. And he went in and he spoke the truth. And that's why he got a lot of those people. But when you start saying things like, Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in modern history, is he? Is he really? How did we get him? We got him by not solving the issues first that would lead to someone like him. So is he really? I could make an argument that Bush was far more dangerous, or that Obama, who took us from 2 to 7 wars, is more dangerous. I could make that argument because they're more intelligent, because they knew more on how to rely on the establishment to get things done. So I could make all these arguments all day. I don't think that rhetoric helped Bernie. I don't think not going after the Democratic establishment that much helped him. And that's why we needed a leftist, populist, anti-establishment, gloves off movement to defeat Donald Trump. That is the only thing that's going to defeat Donald Trump. You're not going to defeat Donald Trump with neoliberalism that caused him. You're just not. People are picking up on it, especially now. What is the government doing to help us other than pretty much taking our money and giving it to the 1%? Did you know that millionaires are getting an almost $2 million pretty much stimulus back in their taxes, while you're only getting a $1,200 payment? Did you know that? Because that's what's happening. It's not a lie. You can look it up right now. And I just want to say, do not feel guilted. Do not feel in any way, shape, or form, even if you're in a swing state like Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, that you have to vote for Joe Biden. Because guess what happened 4 years ago? People voted for Hillary Clinton in large majorities. My co-host Pasta voted for Hillary Clinton, and he was in Florida at that time, and that's why he felt guilted into doing that, and he regrets that choice. Did it change anything? No, because when the people are unhappy and you're not listening to them, it doesn't matter. you're going to get the same results. You're going to get 4 more years of Donald Trump. Stop falling into the whole blackmailing. Stop letting them use your emotions against you. Break the system, break the wheel, break the game, end it, stop. It's not going to end until we do. And where do we go from here? I know a lot of people are ready to give up. I know a lot of people are upset and just want to go away. And maybe it's okay to have some time when you just take a break and take a load off and you're just, don't talk about this and don't concentrate on it. But I just want to remind you all that the time is right. People are rising up everywhere. And we can look at people like the Yellow Vest movement in France and see that the way to vote to get our politicians like Green parties, Peace and Freedom, Socialist Alternative, all of these people, yes, go ahead, vote third party if you like, don't vote, go independent. But what we have to focus on is going outside the electorate. A lot of the most historical moments in our modern history came about public mass movements, not through the electorate. We can look at the civil rights movement, the LGBTQ movement, the women's movement, all of these movements. They didn't just wait to go through the electorate. They went outside of it. They created protests. They marched on the streets until these politicians did their jobs and listened to them. And that's how they got change. Change doesn't come through the electorate. Remember, change is bottom up. And so my whole idea is for all of us to not vote for Joe Biden. And I know that's going against what Bernie Sanders is asking you to do. But Bernie Sanders said, not me, us. He said, don't listen to me if I ever tell you who to vote for. That's the Bernie I'm listening to. 2016 Bernie. The Bernie who in 1986 was speaking against the establishment and our foreign policy. That's the Bernie I'm listening to, the fighter, the revolutionary. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to go and succumb to the electoral bullshit that we're being offered here. The shit sandwich on the left and the shit sandwich on the right. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not ever again. I'm done with the Democratic Party. And what I'm saying is we need to take all these ideas and all this fight and all this passion and go outside the electoral politics and go and start a mass working people's movement. It doesn't matter where you lie politically. I don't care if you're a Republican, liberal, independent, whatever. Start this movement because guess what? All the working people are being screwed over by now, and we can unite on that. We're being screwed over by the top 1%. Remember, it was never about left versus right. It was always about top down. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're fighting for. And we need to demand, make a list of demands of the things that we need right now. Rent moratoriums, Medicare for all of these things. Protest. That's what we need. Once we have that established, we will have an ability to enact, go and organize into a more effective method. For instance, if we demand open, fair elections, open source, paper ballots, completely reform the way our elections are run, we're going to be able to provide a fair platform for people like the Green Party, people like the Peace and Freedom Party, because under this system, it makes it impossible for these people to have a fair shake at the game. None of us have a fair shake right now. We don't. And so until we work on that, we're not going to make it happen. And we don't have time to go through incremental change that is just not working. People think they can go inside the Democratic Party and change it. The Democratic Party changes them. It forces their hand. It forces them to play politics. We don't have time for that. We really don't. We have climate change on top of us. And if you think that this pandemic is bad, just wait till we start adding all the natural disasters, all the new diseases that are going to rise up as a result of our melting ice caps. We have to look forward, and we don't have a lot of time. And so we are literally in the fight for our lives. I mean, it's a very personal fight for me, and it's, I'm sure, a very personal fight for all of you. And so that's why I believe we need a mass working people's movement. And we're going to be talking about that in the Convo Couch. How do we do that? What does it look like? How can we get people together? Eventually, once we have the foundations in place, of course, go join the party of your choice. We should be able to have a multi-party system like they do in every major country that is, an established country. We talk about being the most advanced country, the richest nation in the world, but we are not the richest nation in the world. We are the nation with the richest billionaires, but with the poorest some of the poorest people. We don't even have healthcare. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. So think about those things. Think about how you would want to build this next phase. And that's what it's going to look like. It's going to look like having those foundations set. When everything falls apart, you need to have some sort of foundation. And you don't all have to agree on which party you want. It's not about a party. It's about a working people's movement. Once that happens, you can choose to go in whichever party you like. If you look at England, they have a Labour Party, they have a Green Party, they have the Tories, they have all kinds of parties. We should have that. There's no reason why we shouldn't have that. And the fact that we don't is a crime to us. We are very much, no offense to Florida, but to a lot of people, we're like the Florida of the world, because we're not really there when it comes to fairness in our elections, or when it comes to providing for our most vulnerable. And what's happening right now is exposing all of that. And I think that's the good of what's happening now, is that masks are falling apart. The empire is crumbling. But through that crumbling, through that empire, is when we're going to build the next phase of whatever is to come. So I just wanted to say that, and I know everybody's upset, and there's so much more I want to say. And I'll probably do a few more videos on how I feel about Bernie in particular. And it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel however you want to feel. And I think that's all okay. I don't hate Bernie. I will never hate him. People want me to hate him. I'm not going to. But I just think we are beyond. And the whole point was to create our next leaders, our next movements. And true leaders create more leaders. And I think that's where we're at right now. We are the ones we've been waiting for, right? We are the ones that have to lead this into the next phase. And so that's what we have to do. The electoral way isn't the only way to create change. And I hope everybody is taking care of themselves. I hope people are staying safe. This is a very difficult time for a lot of people. It's you feel estranged. You feel like it's just all a mess. And just know it's momentary. This will pass. And do what you can to maybe think about new ways of going about things, and how to take this time to reflect onto what you value, what you want to do next. And you guys are the ones. I mean, this is it. This is our country right now that's really in a bad position. And we have the capacity, especially you guys have been involved since 2015, to really be the leaders, because people are looking for that, and we just need a way to formulate it and encapsulate it. So thanks for having this chat with me. I'll read the comments and I'll respond. And yeah, guys, have a good rest of your day. I love all of you. Thank you. Bye.